hope that you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend and that your week is off to an amazing start. I'm just going to dive right in today. So, you may recall in episode 3 that I referenced something called the control shame cycle. And I'll quickly recap it in case it doesn't ring a bell or in case you missed that episode. So if you're a high-achieving woman and you have been trying to figure out how to control your emotions and your reactions, but you find that you still struggle to, then you may be stuck in the control shame cycle. I see this a lot. It's very common. If you are, then you likely have been experiencing one or more of these problems. First, you may I would say at least twice a week, you automatically yell or scream or explode because of interactions with your mother, your children, or your partner's behavior. Number 2, after interacting with your emotionally immature or narcissistic mother, you may find yourself replaying those interactions in your mind for at least a week. Third, you may sugarcoat what you say in conversations on a regular basis because you don't want to upset the other person. Number 4, you may worry nearly every single day about all of the things that you need to do, that you have to do, that you should do at work, with your family, in your business, at home. And then finally, the last one, you may find yourself in the shower crying like a baby at least, I'd say, once every 3 months because you're so stressed and overwhelmed with all of your responsibilities in life between home, work, and it's too much to handle. So let's pause here. I'm going to ask, what do all of these things have in common? They are all signs that you are trying to control yourself and or your environment. And yes, I want you to take that literally. They are signs that you're trying to control yourself and or your environment. And they're also symptoms of something deeper. I'm going to touch a bit on that today, but not dive extensively into that. And I want to segue and make a connection really quick. One of the biggest mistakes that I see women in my community making is that they say this phrase, "That's just the way that I am." So think about the 5 things that I just shared. Have you had one or more of those experiences and thought, this is just the way that I am? And maybe you didn't consciously think that, but now that you pause and reflect, you're like, yeah, that feels pretty true for me. Well, today I'm just going to focus on the ones that align particularly with losing it. Although what I'm going to share is also relevant for ruminating, feeling anxious, sugarcoating, and honestly so much more. We are just going to focus on losing it. Yelling, raging, anger, you get the drift. So let's dive into those topics. Automatically yelling, automatically lashing out, having an emotional breakdown every few months. And like I said, most people that have these experiences think that this is just the way that they are. And I get it because kind of everybody says that. And if I'm being completely honest, I used to say that. This is just the way that I am. So it's really easy to fall into that trap. But if that were true, then no one would ever change anything about themselves. And if that were true, then no one would ever overcome these problems and break the cycle of yelling, raging, lashing out, etc. We all know that's not the case. People break that cycle. You might not personally know them. They do. They have. So if you keep holding on to the belief, that's actually going to cause stagnation in your life. So anything in your life where you're telling yourself that's just the way that I am, that will cause stagnation. Why? Because the moment that you tell yourself this is just the way that I am, what you do is you send a message to your mind to stop looking for solutions. That's what's happening. So, and if you're approaching every day with the mindset of, I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to feel happy today. I'm not going to yell. I'm going to let things slide. And then as things come up throughout the day, you do everything you can to hold it together, to let go, to keep your cool, to let things slide off your back and not let them bother you. Then you are most likely approaching your emotions and your reactions with control, which is kind of like a pot of boiling water with a lid on it. Do you have that visual in your mind? A pot of boiling water with the lid on it. If you've got the lid on, what is going to happen? It's only a matter of time until the lid blows off. I want you to think of the boiling water as your emotions. If you hold in your emotions, they don't just disappear. They will come out one way or another. And how those emotions and the energy of those emotions comes out differs across people. Very often it can be anger, like I said before, yelling, rage, lashing out. And it is also commonly anxiety, ruminating, pain in the body, IBS, chronic back pain, and so much more. So let's pause and cover emotions that high achievers tend to push away. Though the ones that come to mind immediately are feeling incompetent, feeling inadequate, embarrassed, rejected, or ignored. So sit with that for a moment and ask yourself, have I ever avoided feeling these things? Have I ever said, I don't want to feel incompetent, inadequate, embarrassed, rejected, judged, ignored? Yes. So if you are approaching life and yourself from control by not allowing yourself to feel those things, then who has control? You don't. Because the moment that those experiences pop up, you lose it. Why? It's because you haven't increased your capacity to tolerate all of the uncomfortable experiences. So trying to control yourself and your environment is the very thing that results in the yelling and anger that you don't want. I'm going to say that again. Trying to control yourself and your environment is the very thing that results in yelling and the anger that you don't want. And if right now you're like, but I'm just a control freak, that's another way to say, that's just the way that I am. So do you want to know how to actually overcome this so that you're not losing it automatically? There's a lot to it. But I want to share a few concrete steps for you to get started with today. First, what I want you to do is tell yourself, I am willing to figure out how to overcome my anger. And I want you to really mean it. Not like, oh yeah, I'm willing to, Steph. No, really mean it. Why? That sends a message to your mind to look for solutions. And you will turn on something called your RAS, your reticular activating system, which is just like that fancy filtering system in your brain that suddenly shows you 1 billion blue Subarus after you purchase a blue Subaru. Maybe that's just me. Even if you never saw one before. So that reticular activating system filters out info because there's way too much coming in, and it shows you what you think is important. So if you tell your brain, your mind, it's important to me to figure out how to overcome this, it will begin looking for solutions and not filter those out. Second, tune in to the sensations in your body. The physiological response provides so much data and is the first indication that something is off. You know, when a person gets defensive or has a strong reaction, what they are actually avoiding is the response in their body. Was that mind-blowing for you to just hear? Because probably you didn't know that. So The goal is tune into those sensations more. The more that you begin to notice what's happening in your body and soften into it, the more that you can use that to choose to behave differently. And the third tip to get started today is really get curious about your behavior. So I have this phrase that I share all the time, get curious, not furious. I want you to ask yourself, what root feeling am I avoiding by choosing this behavior? And this behavior, I mean automatically yelling and things like that. So let me ask you, do you really want to keep thinking, this is just the way that I am? Is that the story that you want to continue to tell yourself? And that's option one. And it is essentially choosing to keep yourself stuck. Or do you want to shift into a bold, brave, badass growth mindset where you can overcome anger and honestly anything else that you tell yourself, this is just the way that I am, which is option two. I'm going with option two. I've been choosing option two, and I would love for you to come along with me. And you might be thinking, Steph, I'm listening to this podcast. I'm here with you on option two. So I want to see how serious you are. If you are ready to dive into your healing journey more, I would love to invite you to my 4-day Bravecation retreat. Bravecation is a beautiful opportunity to really allow yourself to step into letting go of control and step into feeling your feelings so that you have the ultimate control. And I want to share one example with you. At my most recent 4-day retreat, one of the women admitted to me at one point, she said, coming into this, I actually criticized and looked down on others when they cried publicly and when they couldn't hold it together. She perceived that as weak. And she had a massive breakthrough at the retreat and really stepped into shifting her perspective on that. It was so powerful to witness, and she said that everything for her walking out of that retreat has been different, including forming deeper connections with others, having more patience for all of her own emotions, and bringing more money into her business so that because she was no longer driven by fear. And I've got to tell you, this is not something I dove in today, but fear drives behavior. Fear drives behavior. And this work is crucial to overcoming that fear. So at the time of this recording, I only have 2 spots left. So if you're interested in more information and you'd like to see if Bravecation is a good fit for you, then send me a DM on Instagram at Dr. Stephanie Lopez or email me at stephanie@bravemethod.com. You deserve this, and life can be so much better than you ever imagined. I will see you next week.